Introduction. Close your eyes. Take a long, slow breath in and let it go. Feel the weight of your body wherever it rests right now. The surface beneath you, mattress, pillow, blanket, is solid and patient and completely yours tonight. You don't need to move. You don't need to adjust. You are already exactly where you need to be. Take another breath in through the nose, slow and deep, filling from the bottom of the lungs upward, and then out, a long, unhurried exhale, the kind that takes a little longer than feels natural, the kind that empties you completely before the next breath comes. Good. Whatever the day held, however long it was, however full, however much it asked of you, it is over now. It is finished. It has joined the long procession of completed days, and it requires nothing more from you. You gave it what you had, and now it is done, and you are here, and the night is yours. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Let your hands go soft and open. Tonight, I want to take you on a journey, not a rushed journey, not a demanding journey, the gentlest kind of travel, the kind where the world moves past you while you stay still, where the changing of landscapes is not your responsibility, where you need only sit and breathe and look out the window and let the miles go by. We are going to take a train through the mountains, a slow train, an old train, the good kind, with wide windows and comfortable seats, and the particular rhythm that only trains have. That steady, rocking, unhurried rhythm that has been putting people to sleep since the very first trains ran on the very first tracks. The train is waiting. The platform is quiet. Let me take you there. Part 1. The station. The station is small. Not a grand city terminus. Not the great vaulted halls of iron and glass that you find in capital cities, with their crowds and their announcements and the urgent movement of thousands of people. This is a mountain station, a valley station, a station built for a different scale of things. One main platform, perhaps 60 meters long, its surface of old pale stone, worn smooth by decades of feet. The station building of dark timber and local stone, its roof steep to shed the winter snows. It is early evening. The sun has gone behind the western peaks, still light in the sky, a lingering brightness at the upper edges of the clouds, but the valley itself already in shadow, already cooling. The air has the particular quality of mountain air at the end of a day, clean and sharp, carrying the smell of cold stone and pine resin, and the faint, distant smell of snow from the higher passes where it never fully melts. You are standing on the platform. There are a handful of other travelers, not many. A family with 2 children who have exhausted themselves in the mountains today and are now quiet, leaning against their parents, half asleep already. An older couple, experienced travelers by the look of them, settled on a bench with their bags arranged neatly at their feet, not speaking, at ease in the particular silence of a long companionship. A young man with a large backpack staring at the mountains with an expression that might be satisfaction or might be something he is still working out. You find a spot near the end of the platform and The tracks run out from beneath the station canopy and curve almost immediately into the valley, disappearing between walls of dark pine. They gleam in the last of the light, two parallel lines of silver grey steel, perfect and precise, disappearing into the forest as cleanly as two drawn lines. You look down the tracks and then you hear it, a low, continuous sound at first, more felt than heard, a vibration in the platform boards under your feet, a presence in the air, then the sound becoming clearer, more distinct, the rhythmic, steady approach of the train, still out of sight around the curve but announcing itself. The sound grows, the platform vibrates, and then the train comes round the curve and into the station, its headlight bright in the dimming valley, its pace measured and unhurried, the carriages following, one after another, in the long, smooth geometry of a train, arriving exactly as a train should. It slows, stops, the doors open. Part 2. Boarding. You pick up your bag. It is light. You packed lightly for this journey and walk to the nearest door. The steps up into the carriage are worn metal, slightly sticky with years of rubber-soled shoes, the edge of each step marked with a yellow stripe. You climb them and step inside. The carriage is warm. After the cool of the platform, the warmth of the interior is immediate and enveloping. The warmth of an enclosed space that has been heated through the day, that has absorbed the body heat of the passengers it carried in the hours before you. Not stuffy, just warm, with the faint smell of upholstery and the particular, pleasant smell that train carriages always have. Something that combines old fabric and metal and the accumulated presence of travelers, a smell that is nowhere else in the world. You walk down the aisle. The seats are arranged in pairs, facing each other across small tables on either side of the central aisle. They are covered in a dark fabric, dark blue or dark green, difficult to tell in the warm, slightly dim light of the carriage ceiling. The fabric is slightly worn at the seat edges, which tells you the seats are old, which means they have been sat in many times, which means they have been shaped and softened by years of use. These are good seats. You find yours, a window seat, forward facing, on the right side of the carriage. You put your bag on the rack above and sit down. The seat receives you exactly as you hoped, firm enough to support, soft enough to be comfortable, the angle of the back just slightly reclined, the headrest at exactly the right height. You settle into it. You turn to the window. Outside on the platform, the last passengers are boarding, the family with the tired children, the couple from the bench, moving with the unhurried competence of people who have done this many times. The young man with the backpack, ducking through the door. The doors close. A sound, a soft compression of air, the sealed click of modern doors, and then a moment of perfect stillness. Then the train moves. Part 3, leaving the Valians. The train moves so gently at first that you almost miss it. A slight forward lean, the platform beginning to slide past the window, slowly at first, then with more purpose. The station building moving past, its stone facade, its timber eaves, the sign with the village name on it, and then the end of the platform, and then open air. The train is in the valley. On either side, the mountains rise. You can see them through the window. The lower slopes dark with pine, the higher slopes bare rock, and the last of the evening snow. The peaks catching a pale light that the valley floor has already lost. They are enormous, these mountains. They have been here for millions of years and will be here for millions more, completely indifferent to the small, warm, illuminated carriage moving through their lower reaches. The valley floor is flat and green, meadows mostly, cut twice this year, and now at their autumn length, the grass pale gold in the fading light. A river runs alongside the tracks for a stretch, its water grey-green and fast, carrying the melt from the high passes down toward the valley's lower end. You watch it, the way it moves over and around the stones in its bed, the white water where the current quickens, the dark, smooth pools where it deepens and slows. The train picks up its pace, not dramatically. This is a slow train, a mountain train, not built for speed but for reliability and for the particular demands of mountain grades. Its pace settles into something steady and unhurried, a rhythm that seems exactly right for this landscape, this evening, this hour. The mountains slide past the window. You breathe. You are moving, and the movement is effortless, and the world is going past, and all you have to do is sit here and watch it. Part 4. The rhythm of the train. Let us stay with the rhythm for a moment, because it is important, because it is, perhaps, the most important thing about a train. The rhythm comes from the track, specifically from the joints in the rail, the places where one section of rail meets the next. As the train wheels pass over each joint, there is a sound, a particular brief percussion, low and slightly hollow, a sound that is part impact and part vibration, a sound the whole carriage participates in. And because the joints are spaced at regular intervals, this sound becomes a rhythm. Clack, clack, pause. Clack, clack, pause. Clack, clack. Not perfectly regular. The speed changes slightly on curves and grades, the intervals between sounds lengthening and shortening by small amounts, but essentially regular, essentially rhythmic, essentially the same beat repeated without pause for as long as the journey lasts. The whole carriage moves with it. A small side-to-side rocking, so slight you barely notice it consciously, but present, a continuous gentle motion that your body registers and responds to. There is something about this particular movement, this particular rhythm, that does to the body what almost nothing else does so reliably. It is one of the oldest sleeping remedies humans have discovered. Rock a baby and it sleeps. Ride in a carriage and it is difficult to stay awake. Sit on a train at the end of a long day and feel the rhythm beneath you, and within minutes the eyes are heavy, the thoughts are slow, the world softens. The train rocks you gently, steadily, without pause. You lean your head against the window and feel the slight vibration of the glass against your temple. And the vibration is part of the rhythm too. The rhythm finding you even through the solid material of the window, entering your body through your skin and bones. Clack, 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 hash, hash, part 5. The window. The window is your portal. For the duration of this journey, it is the frame through which the world presents itself to you. Everything you see passes through it, is contained by it, is given its significance by it. The mountains, the valley, the river, the sky, going darker now toward full evening, all of it framed and presented. The glass of the window is thick, double paned, the outer surface misted very slightly at the edges, where the cold of the mountain air meets the warmth of the carriage interior. In the center of the glass, it is perfectly clear. You rest your temple against the cool upper edge of the window frame and look out. The valley is narrowing now as the train moves upstream, the mountains closing in on both sides, the flat meadow floor giving way to steeper, rockier ground. The river, still beside the tracks, has quickened. It is running through a narrower channel here, the sound of it inaudible through the sealed window, but visible in the increased agitation of its surface. The whiteness of the water where it breaks over the larger stones. Trees press closer to the tracks on both sides. Old pines mostly, tall and straight, their trunks bare for the first 10 meters. The branches beginning high up where the light is, forming a dense canopy that arches over the tracks and blocks the sky. The evening light filters through the canopy in long diagonal shafts, the dust and pollen in the air making the light visible, the shafts moving slowly as the train passes beneath them. A clearing opens briefly on the right, a small flat area of grass beside the river, and on the grass a wooden hut, small and dark, its door shut, its shutters closed, a hunting hut perhaps, or a shepherd's shelter, used in season and abandoned now to the autumn quiet. Smoke has darkened the stones around the chimney hole. A stack of wood leans against one wall, covered with a rough tarpaulin. It is gone as quickly as it appeared. The trees close back in. You watch the trees go past, the rhythm of their trunks, almost another rhythm beneath the rhythm of the track, a faster, more irregular rhythm that counterpoints the steady percussion of the wheels. Clack, clack, the trees going past, clack, clack, the river visible, and then hidden, and then visible again. Part 6. First tunnel. The train enters a tunnel. You have perhaps 30 seconds of warning. The mountainside ahead, through the window, drawing closer. The tracks clearly aimed at the dark opening in the rock. Then the darkness comes, complete and sudden. The window going from the dimming evening outside to absolute black in a single moment. Inside the tunnel, the sounds change entirely. The rhythm of the wheels, which was a pleasant background presence, becomes enormous, echoed and amplified by the rock walls around the carriage. The sound filling the air inside the tunnel, reflecting back from the curved stone ceiling in a deeper, more resonant version of itself. The carriage feels suddenly closer, the air more solid, the darkness complete. The overhead lights in the carriage are on. They were on before but barely noticed against the daylight outside. Now they are everything, warm and amber yellow, illuminating the interior of the carriage clearly, casting soft shadows. The other passengers are suddenly more present here, faces in the warm light, each one in their own private state of repose. two children, asleep now, finally, their heads against their parents, their faces completely relaxed in sleep. The absolute total surrender of exhausted children. The older couple, the woman reading, the man looking at nothing in particular, his eyes slightly unfocused, somewhere inside himself. A few other passengers you hadn't fully noticed. A middle-aged woman with grey-streaked hair, her cheek resting on one hand, her eyes closed. A man with a beard looking at his phone, its light blue-white in the warm amber of the carriage. For the duration of the tunnel, the carriage is a small, warm world, complete in itself. Then, light returns, a grey square at the far end of the tunnel, growing rapidly, and then the carriage exits, and the outside world expands again, but different now, higher, the train having climbed through the mountain on the curve of the tunnel, and emerging on a ledge above the valley, the views wider and more open, the valley floor now some distance below. You are higher, the mountains are even larger from here. Part 7, The Mountain Liege. The track runs along a ledge cut into the mountainside. On your left, the rock face, very close. The stone dark and wet in places where water seeps from within the mountain. The rock face interrupting occasionally for the black mouth of a drainage channel or the pale scar of a recent rockfall. On your right, the view. The valley below is spectacular. It has fallen away dramatically since the tunnel, the train having climbed a significant grade through the mountain's interior. And now from this height, you can see the whole of the lower valley, the flat meadow floor, the river coiling through it, the village where you boarded now tiny in the distance, its lights beginning to come on in the early evening dark, small orange points scattered through the dimness of the valley floor. Beyond the village, the valley opens further to a broader plain, and in the fading light, you can just see the shapes of other mountains ranged along the horizon, their silhouettes layered, the near ones darker, the far ones paler, the farthest ones almost indistinguishable from the sky. The sky itself is extraordinary at this moment. The last of the day is concentrated at the western horizon, a long band of amber and pale gold, above which the sky grades through orange to a deep, clear blue-green, and above that to the darkest blue of the upper atmosphere, where the first stars are beginning to appear. One star, then two, then three, the brightest ones, the ones that always come first. You watch the stars appear, each one arriving silently, simply being there where a moment before it was not. The sky filling slowly from the top down, the darkness deepening, the band of color at the horizon narrowing and dimming as the minutes pass. The train rocks on its ledge, the valley drops away on the right, the rock face rises close on the left, and above, through the top of the window, the sky filling with stars. Part 8, the dining car. You decide to walk to the dining car. It is 2 carriages towards the front of the train. You make your way through the connecting doors, between carriages, each one a brief exposure to the sound of the journey. The clatter between carriages, louder, the wind audible, the cold of the mountain night coming through the imperfect seals around the door frames. and then the next door opening, and the warmth and quiet of the next carriage closing around you. The dining car is warmer than the passenger carriages. It runs along both sides of the car. Small tables with bench seats facing each other, each table with a small lamp affixed to the window wall, each lamp casting a pool of warm light over the table surface. The lamps have shades of frosted glass, and the light through them is soft and even, without shadow, a gentle amber that makes everything it touches look old and warm and good. A few tables are occupied. The older couple from your carriage are here, eating soup. You can smell it from the doorway, a rich vegetable soup smell, the smell of broth and root vegetables and herbs. They are talking now, quietly, heads slightly inclined toward each other. You find an empty table near the window and sit. An attendant comes, a young woman with dark hair tied back, her uniform neat and slightly worn, a practiced ease in the way she moves in the narrow space between the tables. You order tea. She brings it quickly, a small ceramic pot, slightly too hot to hold comfortably, the tea already steeping inside, darkening the water to amber through the ceramic, a small cup with a handle, a single sugar cube on the side of the saucer. You pour the tea. The steam rises. You wrap your hands around the cup, feeling the warmth, and look out the window. The mountains outside are almost completely dark now. The sky above them still holds some color at the far horizon, the very last of the amber, fading by the minute, but the mountains themselves are black silhouettes against that fading light, the detail of them gone, leaving only their shapes, the great angular shapes of the high ridges, the V shapes of the passes between them, the softened shoulders of the lower slopes. You sip the tea. It is good, strong but not bitter, with a warmth that travels the full length of your throat. The train rocks. The lamp on your table sways very slightly with the motion, its circle of light moving in a small, slow arc across the table surface. Part 9. Conversation with the mountain. And yet, there is something that happens when you look at mountains, especially from a distance, especially in the evening, especially from a warm train with tea in your hands. That feels like listening. That has the quality of listening. Your own thoughts, slow and quiet. Your internal monologue reduces itself to background noise, and in that relative quiet, something else becomes audible. Not the mountain speaking, not literally, but something. The simple, overwhelming fact of the mountain's presence, its age, its scale. These mountains were here before humans, long before. The rock they are made of, pressed from the sediment of ancient sea floors, pushed upward by the slow collision of continental plates, carved by ice ages into the shapes they now present, is hundreds of millions of years old. The peaks you are looking at this evening existed in some form when the dinosaurs lived. They will exist in some form long after every human structure has crumbled. Looking at them from this warm carriage, in this moving train, you are not made to feel small and insignificant. You are made to feel appropriately sized, to feel the correct proportion of things, that you are human-sized, which is exactly the right size for a human to be, and the mountains are mountain-sized, which is exactly the right size for mountains to be, and neither of these facts diminishes the other. They simply coexist. The small warm carriage and the enormous cold stone, the brief life and the vast geological time. You are here, the mountains are here. Both are true at once. You finish your tea. You sit with the empty cup and the darkening window and the rhythm of the train and the mountains going by. Hash, hash, part 10. Returning to your seat. You make your way back through the connecting carriages to your seat. The carriage is quieter now. Several passengers are sleeping, including the 2 children who have been resettled into more comfortable positions. One of them with a small travel pillow wedged against the window, the other lying along the seat with their feet in their parents' lap. The overhead lights have been dimmed. This carriage has a night setting, a lower, warmer light that still allows you to see but does not interfere with sleep. Your seat is exactly as you left it, the impression of your body still in the cushion, the small smudge of condensation on the window where your breath reached it earlier, your bag in the rack above, patient and undisturbed. You sit down. The night outside the window is now fully dark, not the partial dark of evening, but the complete dark of the mountain night, a darkness that is deeper and more absolute than anything in the lit world of towns and cities. Between the mountains and the sky, there is a difference. The mountains completely dark, the sky only partially dark, still full of stars, a deep blue-black that contains within it an immeasurable depth. The stars, from up here at altitude, with no nearby artificial light to compete with them, the stars are extraordinary. The Milky Way is visible, actually visible, not the pale smear it is from most places, but a genuine band of light across the sky, thick and complex, thousands of individual stars blurring into a collective luminescence at its center. You look at it, you let it look enormous and ancient and more beautiful than anything you might say about it. Clack, clack, the rhythm beneath you, the stars above. Part 11. The small stations. Through the night, the train stops at small stations. These are not the stopping of your departure station. No bustle, no loading of passengers, no energy of departure. These are mountain stops, brief pauses at small platforms lit by a single lamp or two, in villages too small to have a name you would recognize, serving passengers who know exactly where they are going and have no need to announce it. The train stops for a minute, sometimes two, long enough for a few people to descend, their footsteps audible for a moment on the platform, then fading, long enough for the cold of the mountain night to enter briefly through the open doors of another carriage. You feel it as a change in the air of your carriage, a brief chill, a freshness. Then the doors close, the train moves. At one such stop, very small, a single lamp on a platform so short it barely accommodates the length of one carriage. You watch from your window. There is nothing to see, almost. The platform, pale stone in the lamp's light, a bench, empty, a sign with the station's name in white letters. You cannot read it from here. The letters small and your angle wrong. Beyond the platform, complete darkness, the darkness of a mountain night in a place with no artificial light for kilometers in any direction. A single figure stands on the platform, waiting, unmoving. A coat and a hat, a shape in the lamplight, waiting for someone on the train, or waiting for the train to pass so they can cross the tracks, or waiting for something you cannot know. They do not look at the train, they look away into the darkness of the valley. The doors open somewhere, the doors close. The figure on the platform does not move. The train moves. You watch the platform diminish in the window, the lamp growing smaller, the figure smaller, the pale stone of the platform becoming a dim shape in the darkness, and then darkness, and the train is back in the night and the mountains. Part 12. Fellow travelers in the dark. The carriage is very quiet now. In the dimmed light, you can see the other passengers as shapes, some upright, some leaning, some stretched sideways across their seats. The sound of the carriage at night is different from its daytime sound. The rhythm of the track is the same, but the absence of conversation and movement gives it a different quality, more prominent, more present. The rhythm of the train, clack, clack, pause, clack, clack. The children are deeply asleep. The one against the window has their mouth slightly open, their forehead touching the glass. The one along the seat has their knees pulled up, their hands tucked under their chin. They are completely given over to sleep, completely trusting, completely unguarded. You watch them for a moment. There is something about sleeping children that is one of the most peaceful sights in the world, not because children are better than adults, but because the sleep of children is complete in a way that adult sleep rarely achieves. A total, unconditional surrender to rest, a giving up of every small defense, every small holding. They are going somewhere, these children. They are being taken through the mountains in the night by a train and by their parents, and they don't need to know the route or the schedule or the name of the next station. They only need to sleep, and they are doing it perfectly. The older couple have also both fallen asleep now, the woman's book closed on her lap, her head resting against her husband's shoulder, his arm around her with the ease of 40 or 50 years. Their faces, relaxed in sleep, have a quality that is difficult to describe, a return to something, a softening of the ears. You look at them and feel something, not quite envy, not quite recognition, something between them. You look out the window, the dark mountains, the stars. Part 13. The high pass. The train begins to climb. You feel it before you see it. A slight change in the carriage's angle. A barely perceptible tipping backward as the grade increases, and the sound of the engine changing, working harder, the rhythm of the wheels still steady, but the engine's contribution now more audible, a low, determined sound. You are climbing toward the highest point of the journey, the high pass. This is the heart of the mountains. The train has been ascending gradually since leaving the valley, but now the grade steepens and the climb becomes earnest. The tracks switch backing up the mountainside in a series of curves that the headlight at the front of the train illuminates, one at a time, each curve appearing in the light and then giving way to the next. On your window, the rock face is very close on one side. The cut through which the tracks pass is narrow here, the walls of stone rising almost vertically on both sides. The sky a narrow strip above. You can see the marks of the drilling and blasting that made this cut, the drill holes, the irregular fracture surfaces, the occasional iron bolt set into the rock to anchor a protective wire above the track. Then the cut opens and the view. The train emerges onto a high shelf of rock, exposed, the valley on one side dropping away to depths, now hidden in darkness and cloud, the peaks rising on the other side into the star-filled sky. The cold up here is visible in the way the stars are harder edged, the air thinner, the sky of a deeper, more saturated black. You press your face to the window. You are high in the mountains now. The world below is invisible. Cloud and darkness have covered the valley floor entirely, but the world above is extraordinary. The naked rock of the highest ridges, the snow on the high faces gleaming in starlight, the sky brilliant and enormous and close. You feel small in the best possible way, held in the mountains, carried through them, sheltered in the warm carriage, while the cold and the rock and the enormous night sky are just on the other side of the glass. The train labors through the pass, and then, almost imperceptibly, the angle changes, the descent begins. Part 14. Beginning the descent, going down, is different from going up. The engine's sound changes, no longer working hard, now restraining, the brakes making a very faint sound in the rails, the train holding itself back on the steeper descending grades. The carriage's angle tips very slightly the other way, forward now, rather than backward. The curves come faster on the descent, the track winding more tightly as it loses altitude quickly over a short horizontal distance. Through the window on the downhill side, you can see ahead occasionally the track in the headlight of the leading car curving away into darkness, and somewhere far below, at the bottom of the descent, the suggestion of lights, a town, perhaps, or a valley village catching the reflection of the sky, the other side of the mountains. The train is crossing the range. You left one valley and you are descending into another, a different valley, a different river system, a different collection of villages and passes and meadows, the other face of the same mountains. You have not moved. The mountains have passed through you, or you through them. You have been carried through this crossing while sitting completely still, your body doing nothing, the train doing all the work, the mountains doing all the presenting. This is what travel at its best feels like. Not effort and achievement, not the satisfaction of having done something hard, just reception, just openness, just the willingness to sit still and let the world pass by the window and be grateful for what it shows you. Clack, clack, the descent, the lights far below, the sleeping carriage. At the next major stop, a larger station, lit and real, with a proper platform and a small station building. You make your way to the sleeping carriage. This is a treat you arranged for yourself before the journey began. A sleeper compartment, small but complete, at the far end of the train. The conductor leads you to it, checks your ticket, shows you the small room with an efficiency and kindness that suggests he has done this many thousands of times and is still able to do it as if it matters. The compartment is smaller than you expected. A bunk, a proper bunk, not just a seat reclined, along one wall, made up with white sheets and a wool blanket and a small pillow in a crisp white case. A window, this one opening slightly at the top for fresh air, a small folding table, a hook for your coat, a reading lamp on a flexible arm, currently pointing toward the pillow. You sit on the bunk. The mattress is firmer than you might choose for a bed at home, but it is exactly right for a train. Firm enough that the motion of the train does not roll you. Solid enough that the rhythm of the wheels becomes something you rest on rather than something that moves you. You take off your shoes. You put them neatly on the floor. You lie down. The pillow is cool and firm and exactly the right height. The blanket over you is substantial. Wool, slightly rough, warm within moments of your body heat filling it. The sheet beneath you is crisp and smooth and smells of laundry, clean and slightly stiff, the way freshly laundered things smell. You reach up and switch off the reading lamp. The compartment goes dark, except for the window. Through the window, the moving night outside, the dark shapes of the mountains passing, the occasional light, a house, a road, a distant village, appearing and disappearing. The window frames the night like a slow, dark film, showing you the world going past without sound, without explanation, simply present and then gone. You lie in the dark and watch the world go by. The rhythm from the bed, from the bunk, the rhythm of the train is different. In the seat, you felt it through the cushion and the floor, a transmitted vibration. Here, in the bunk, you feel it directly. The mattress on the frame on the carriage floor, the carriage on the wheels on the track, a direct connection. The rhythm is not just sound and vibration now, but motion, a slow, small, continuous rocking that the bunk participates in, a side-to-side gentleness that is almost imperceptible and yet completely present. It is the oldest sleeping motion, the rocking that puts babies to sleep, the rocking of a boat on a calm sea, the rocking of a carriage on a country road. All of these, the same motion, the same fundamental response in the human nervous system, the relaxation that comes when the body is gently, rhythmically moved. The brain reads this motion as safe. Something ancient in the brain reads this rocking as a sign that someone else is in charge of the movement, that you are being carried, not carrying yourself. And when something else is in charge of the carrying, when you are a passenger rather than the one driving, the vigilance that wakefulness requires can relax. The watchfulness that keeps you upright and oriented and ready to respond can step back. You are being carried. You do not need to steer. You do not need to navigate. You only need to lie here and let the train do what trains do. Roll forward on its rails through the mountain night, steady and sure, carrying you toward morning. Clack, clack, the carriage rocks. Your eyes are very heavy. the sounds of the sleeping train. At night, on a sleeping train, the sounds are particular, the rhythm of the track, always constant, that steady percussion beneath everything else. But around and above and within it, other sounds, the creak of the carriage structure, the old joinery shifting slightly as the temperature changes through the night, the metal fittings expanding and contracting in tiny increments, each one a small brief sound, a tick, a settle, a faint groan from somewhere in the wall, that is, not distress, but simply the sound of a metal thing doing what metal things do in the cold, the wind over the carriage, at speed through the open sections between tunnels. The air moving past the exterior of the train creates a low, steady sound, a hiss almost, the aerodynamics of the carriage talking to the mountain air. In the tunnels, this sound changes, becomes louder, amplified, and then cuts off when the train emerges. The sound of the heating system in the wall, a low, intermittent click as the thermostat cycles on and off. The warmth in the compartment maintained through the cold mountain night by something you never have to see or manage. The very faint sounds of the other compartments, not voices, not at this hour. Everyone asleep or nearly so, but presences, the slight shift of weight on a bunk 2 compartments away, the sound of someone turning over, the rustle of sheets, all of this together, the rhythm, the creak, the wind, the heat, the faint presences, makes a texture of sound that is the sound of the sleeping train, not silence, something better than silence, a continuous, complex, living quiet. You breathe, the rhythm of the track, out, the creak of the carriage, in, the wind over the exterior, out. Part 18. What the mountains look like at night. Through the window of the sleeping compartment, the mountains pass. They are very dark. This, far from any town, in the deep middle section of the mountain range, there are almost no lights at all. The mountainsides are black, the valleys blacker, the sky above the ridges the deepest blue you have ever seen. The stars fill every part of the sky that is not mountain, crowded and brilliant. The Milky Way arching overhead in its full ancient glory. You watch the mountains against the stars. Each ridge presents a different profile as the train moves. The sharp angle of one peak, the rounded shoulder of another, the deep V of a distant pass, the clean line of a snowfield catching the starlight. Each one appears briefly in your window and then goes, replaced by the next, the whole range presenting itself to you, one view at a time, each view complete and beautiful and unrepeatable. You could not have planned to see any particular view. You did not choose what the mountains would show you tonight. You only chose to be here, on this train, in this direction, at this hour. And the mountains have taken that choice and filled it with these views, each one a gift, each one gone before you can fully hold it. This is what makes train journeys unlike any other travel. The views come to you. You do not seek them, do not hike to them, do not position yourself for them. You only sit still, and they arrive, one after another, the mountains offering to the patient the still, the willing to receive. Receive them, one ridge, one snowfield, one deep V against the stars, one, and then the next, and then the next. Part 19. The valleys on the other side. Sometime in the middle of the night. You don't know the hour. Your watch is somewhere in your bag. The hour feels unimportant. The train descends into a new valley. You feel the descent in the angle of the bunk, the slight tipping forward, the change in the engine's sound, and then, gradually, lights appear below the window. Not many, scattered across the valley floor in loose constellations, the orange lights of street lamps and lit windows making small, warm pools in the darkness. Farmhouses, a small village, its main street lit by a row of lamps, a road running the length of the valley marked by moving lights, a car driving at this late hour, its headlights sweeping the valley floor, signs of people, of lives being lived in these mountains at this hour, in these valleys that you have never visited and will perhaps never visit except in passing, except through a train window in the middle of the night. The thought of those lives, the farmer sleeping in the farmhouse, whose light you can see, the driver on the valley road going somewhere you will never know about, the person in the lit window of the village house who is awake at this hour for reasons you cannot know, fills you not with curiosity but with something softer, a kind of gentle solidarity. They are here, and you are here, and the mountains are above all of you, and the night is long and quiet, and everyone is making their way through it, the best they can. The lights of the valley pass slowly, the train slows for a station, a larger one, a valley town, the platform better lit, a few late passengers visible in the orange light. The train stops briefly, then moves again, and the valley town falls behind, and you are out into the dark fields beyond it, and then the mountains again on both sides as the valley narrows. Part 20. Deep night on the train. This is the deepest part of the night. You know it without knowing the hour. There is a quality to the dark outside, a depth, a completeness that tells you the night has reached its center, the hour when the world is most fully at rest, when the last of the late night travelers have found their beds and the earliest of the early morning workers have not yet risen. The pure, undivided middle of the night. The train moves through it, steady and unhurried, its headlight cutting a path through the darkness ahead, the rhythmic percussion of the wheels on the track, the only continuous sound in all this silence. You are still awake, not urgently awake, not alert, not anxious, just present, in that way that is possible in the deep of the night, when everything non-essential has fallen away and what remains is simple and clear. You are on a train. You are in the mountains. The night is full of stars. The rhythm of the track is steady under you. That is all there is. That is everything there is. Your thoughts, which have been thin and slow for some time, are thinner still now, more like the impressions of thoughts than thoughts themselves. A color, a sensation, a memory of the view from the high pass, a star-filled sky, the snow catching the light, These move through you without requiring a response, without demanding anything, simply present and then gone. Your breathing is very slow. 4 counts in, longer pause, 6 counts out. The rhythm of the train matching nothing and yet fitting everything. Part 21. The conductor. In the middle of the night, the conductor passes through the sleeping carriage. You hear him, a soft footstep in the corridor, the faintest sound of a handle turned, a door opened and closed. Not enough to wake anyone who is sleeping, only enough to register as a presence in the corridor, a soft and reassuring presence. He is checking on things, making sure the heating is working in each compartment, making sure the window vents are not letting in too much cold, making sure the train is doing what it should be doing, that everyone in his care is warm and resting, that the journey is proceeding correctly. You don't see him, but you know he is there, in the corridor doing his quiet work, the person who watches while others sleep. Every train has one, someone whose job it is to be awake while the passengers rest, to monitor and adjust and respond, to be the vigilance that allows everyone else to let go of theirs. This is true of many things. There are always people awake while others sleep. The night nurses, the bakers, the security guards, the parents of young children, the air traffic controllers, the people whose work is the night itself. They keep watch while the world rests. They carry the awareness that the sleeping world has laid down. You don't need to be awake for this train. You don't need to watch for anything. Someone else is watching. You can sleep. 22. The things that last. A train journey through mountains in the night invites a certain kind of thinking, not planning, not problem solving. The longer, slower kind. The kind that arises when the ordinary urgencies fall away and the mind finds itself with space to look at things it usually passes too quickly. You find yourself thinking about the things that last. The mountains, obviously, they last in a way that dwarfs human experience, their existence, a rebuke to the idea that anything we build or think or say could be permanent. And yet they are not permanent either. They are being worn down, grain by grain, in a process so slow as to be invisible in a single human lifetime, but real and certain and ongoing. They are temporary on the geological scale, as everything is. So what lasts? You think about this, rocking gently in the mountain dark, the train carrying you through the night. What lasts is not the monuments. The monuments crumble. Not the buildings, they fall. Not the words even. The languages change and the texts are lost, and what seemed permanent becomes, in enough centuries, unreadable. What lasts is more like the way light falls on water, the sound of rain on a roof, the feeling of being held and carried by something larger than yourself, the warmth of a cup in cold hands. These are not preserved in monuments or texts. They are preserved in bodies, in the nervous system, in the inherited patterns of response that make the rocking of a train feel safe and the warmth of a fire feel like home. What lasts is what the body knows, and the body knows this train, knows the rhythm of it, knows what it means to be rocked and carried through the dark. Clack, clack, the body knows. Part 23. the second tunnel. The train enters another tunnel. This one is longer than the first. The darkness outside the window goes black and stays black for a long time. The echoed sound of the wheels in the tunnel, filling the compartment with its deep, resonant percussion. In the long darkness of the tunnel, you have nothing to look at but the darkness itself. And there is something restful about this. The removal of the visual, the simplification of experience to sound and motion and warmth, the rhythm of the train, the rocking of the bunk, the warmth of the blanket. These are enough. They are more than enough. In the complete dark, with only these sensations, the mind has nothing to engage with, and so it releases its engagement. The thoughts, which were already thin further, the consciousness, which was already close to sleep, drifts closer still. The tunnel goes on, the rhythm continues. The dark is complete. You breathe, and then, at the far end of the tunnel, the grey circle appears. The exit, the outside world, the night beyond the mountain. It grows rapidly as the train approaches, the circle of grey expanding, and then the train emerges and the compartment fills with the faint starlit darkness of the outside. A new valley, different from the last, wider perhaps, the mountains farther away. On one side, a large body of water visible in the starlight, a lake perhaps, its surface flat and dark and reflecting the stars in a vast mirror. You look at the reflected stars, two skies, one above and one below, the same stars in both, the same ancient light. Part 24. The lake. The train runs alongside the lake for some time. The lake is large. You can see its far shore in the starlight, a dark line against the slightly lighter sky, but barely, a distance too great for detail. Between you and that far shore, the water is dark and still and enormous, the surface unmarked by any wind, the reflections of the stars so clear and precise that you almost cannot tell where the sky ends and the water begins. The shore nearest the track is rocky, large pale stones at the water's edge, their shapes visible in the starlight. A few trees close to the water, their reflections trailing in the lake's surface, the doubled image of each tree wavering very slightly in the almost imperceptible movement of the water, not quite still, almost still. There is something uniquely peaceful about large, still water at night, the scale of it, the quietness, the sense that this body of water has been here for a long time and will be here for a long time after, that its rhythms are geological, not human, that its seasons, the freeze and thaw of mountain lakes, the summer clarity, the autumn opacity, proceed without reference to anything in the human world. A few lights on the far shore, a village perhaps, or a solitary house, their lights reflected in the lake in long broken lines, not the clean star reflections, but the orange and white of electric lights, blurred by their own reflection into something painterly, something that looks like a long exposure photograph of a world slightly out of focus. Beautiful. Everything is beautiful, from a warm train in the middle of a mountain night when the day's tensions are entirely gone and the only thing in front of you is the window and the dark water and the stars. The train rocks, the lake goes past, the lights on the far shore diminish and disappear. Part 25. Almost asleep. Your eyes are closing now, not by effort or decision, simply closing the way eyes close when the body has decided it is time, when all the conditions are right and the remaining reasons for wakefulness have faded away. The window is still visible, a grey rectangle, the outside world moving past in its slow, dark parade. But you are no longer watching it with attention. You are receiving it, which is different. The shapes of mountains, the occasional light, the moving dark of forest and field. These pass through your peripheral awareness without requiring your focus. Your body is completely still. Your hands, which were resting on the blanket, have softened and opened. Your legs, which were slightly tense without your knowing, have released their tension. Your shoulders are the lowest they have been all day, all week perhaps. The rhythm of the train is inside you now, not just heard, not just felt, inside. The rhythm has synchronized with something, your breathing perhaps, or your heartbeat, or some deeper biological rhythm that runs beneath both, and the boundary between you and the train's motion has dissolved slightly. You are not a passenger being carried. You are simply part of the moving thing, rocking with it, breathing with it. Clack, clack, clack. Your thoughts are almost nothing, not gone. There is still something, a color, the memory of the lake and its reflected stars, the warmth of the blanket, the feel of the pillow under your cheek. These are the last things, these gentle, sensory, wordless things, the rhythm, the warmth, the dark. Part 26. What sleep is? Sleep is a small miracle that happens every night. You will not be conscious for its arrival. One moment you are here, aware of the train, the rhythm, the warmth, the moving darkness outside the window, and the next moment you are somewhere else entirely, in the interior world of sleep, where the ordinary rules of time and space relax their grip, and the mind moves freely through territories that don't exist anywhere but there. You won't remember the transition. You never do. No one does. The transition from waking to sleep is, by definition, not experienced consciously. It happens to the conscious self as the conscious self dissolves into something larger and less defined. You don't fall into sleep so much as you become sleep for a while, become the part of yourself that exists when the managing, narrating, evaluating conscious mind steps aside. And what is there when that mind steps aside? Rest, restoration, the deep biological maintenance that the body can only do in sleep, the memory consolidation, the physical repair, the immune system working at its peak, the hormones resetting, the nervous system finding its baseline, and dreams, those extraordinary productions of the sleeping mind, those stories the brain tells itself in the dark, drawing on memory and emotion, and something that is neither of those things, something that has no name. You don't need to try to sleep. You only need to continue doing what you are. already doing. Breathing, receiving the rhythm, being warm, being here. The rest will happen on its own. Port 27. The mountain night around the train. The train is a small, warm, moving world in the middle of an enormous cold darkness. Consider for a moment what is out there, beyond the carriage walls. The cold, mountain cold, at altitude, in the small hours of the night, perhaps 10 degrees below zero on the exposed high sections. The kind of cold that is absolute, that penetrates everything, that would be dangerous for any warm-blooded creature without shelter. The dark, complete in the valleys and on the lower slopes, partial only where the stars reach the snow. The silence, not total, because the mountain night has its own sounds. The wind in the high passes, the creak of cooling rock, the occasional sound of a small night creature moving through the undergrowth. But compared to the day, compared to the human world, a mountain night is as close to silence as you can find in the inhabited world. In this cold and dark and silence, the train moves, a bright, warm, loud, rhythmic object carrying its cargo of sleeping people through the mountains, its headlight cutting through the darkness, its wheels beating their steady rhythm on the rails, its heating system maintaining the comfortable warmth of the carriages against the mountain cold. It is a remarkable thing, a train in the mountains at night, this ancient, ordinary, extraordinary thing. You are in it, safe in the warmth of it, rocked by the rhythm of it, carried through the cold and dark by it. Part 28. The river again. Somewhere on the other side of the range, the train finds another river. You hear it before you see it, not literally, through the sealed windows, but you recognize the landscape change. The way the track curves to follow a valley floor, the way the terrain on both sides becomes the particular terrain of river valleys. The flat alluvial floor, the gravel beds visible even in the dark, the way the trees along the banks are taller and denser than those on the drier slopes above. The river is there, parallel to the tracks, invisible in the dark, but present, moving in the dark, making its sound, carrying its cold mountain water toward the lower land, toward the plains, toward the sea, moving with no headlight, no rhythm of wheels, just the ancient, patient movement of water finding its way downhill. The river doesn't know about the train doesn't know about the river. They move alongside each other through the night, two different kinds of passage, two different scales of time, both moving through the same valley in the same direction, both going somewhere, both in no particular hurry. You think about rivers in the dark, about how they move all night while everyone sleeps, how the water that is in this river right now will be somewhere else tomorrow, further downstream, further toward the sea, how it has been moving without pause, through every night, through every winter, through every age of this valley, before there were trains, and before there were people, and long before there was anyone to notice or name it. The river passes invisibly in the dark. The train follows in its different way. You breathe. Part 29. Before dawn in the mountains. The night does not change gradually in the mountains. For a long time it is completely dark. No hint, no suggestion, no softening at the horizon. Then, quite suddenly, by comparison to the length of the darkness, there is something, a differentiation in the dark, east becoming distinguishable from north, the shapes of the eastern peaks becoming slightly visible against a sky that is not yet light, but is slightly less dark. The stars begin to fade, slowly at first, the very faintest, most distant ones, which require the deepest dark to be visible, disappearing before the others. Then, gradually, the sky's darkness thinning from the east, the stars retreating before it, the Milky Way dissolving, the great canopy of lights that has been above the mountains all night beginning to come apart. Dawn is coming, not yet here, not for another hour perhaps, but announced, the night announcing the day in the way that it always does, gradually and from a great distance, the news traveling ahead of itself. In the valleys below the train, the darkness is still complete. The low-lying cold air stays dark long after the peaks have begun to catch the first light. Down where the river runs and the road runs and the sleeping houses are, it is still full night. But up here, on the train, on the high section still above the valley floor, the sky is visibly changing. The east is pale, not light, not yet, but the deep velvet black has become something thinner, something that knows what it is becoming. Part 30, the first color. The first color is not the dramatic orange of sunrise. It comes before that, before the sun has cleared any horizon. It is a color that has no proper name, part blue and part purple and part grey. A color that exists only in this particular window of time, between the deepest night and the first actual light of day. It appears at the eastern horizon and spreads upward very slowly, staining the sky in that nameless in-between hue. In your compartment, still half asleep, you notice it. The window that has been dark for hours is fractionally less dark. The eastern peaks, which were invisible, are becoming slightly visible, not clearly, not in detail, but as shapes against the slightly lighter sky, as silhouettes of themselves. You are not fully awake. You are in that state between sleep and waking, where the perceptions come clearly, but the mind doesn't fully engage with them. You see the light, you register the dawn, but you don't need to do anything about it. You lie still, the blanket is warm. The rhythm of the train is unchanged. It has been the same all night and will be the same until you arrive, steady and patient and unaware of the dawn, which is not its concern. The color at the horizon deepens slightly, still not orange, still not the sunrise itself, but growing, spreading, the sky lightening by degrees so small you could not measure them individually, but that add up over time to the full extraordinary fact of a new day beginning. Part 31. Waking on the train. You wake properly sometime later. The compartment is full of grey light, the light of a mountain morning, soft and even, coming through the window from a sky that has cleared somewhat overnight, the clouds that were here yesterday evening having moved on, leaving a sky that is pale blue in the east and still faintly pink at the horizon, where the sun has recently cleared it. The mountains outside the window are clear and sharp and lit in the specific golden light of early morning, that low angle light that makes the east-facing slopes glow and leaves the west-facing ones in deep shadow. The contrast extraordinary. The colors of the rock and snow and forest more vivid in this light than they will be at any other time of day. You lie still for a moment and simply look. The bunk is warm. The pillow is exactly right under your head. The blanket is slightly too warm now that the compartment is heated up through the morning, but pleasantly so. You push it down slightly, exposing your arms to the cooler air, keeping the warmth over your legs. You slept. You slept through the mountains, through the lake, through the pass, through the second valley, through the long dark middle of the night, and now it is morning, and the mountains are outside, and the train is still moving, and you are rested in the specific, deep way that only a good night's sleep on a train can produce. A knock at the compartment door, the conductor offering morning tea. You say yes. Part 32, Morning Tea and Mountains. He brings it on a small tray, a ceramic pot, a cup, a small pitcher of milk, a single biscuit wrapped in paper. He sets it on the fold-down table without fuss, nods, and goes. You sit up in the bunk. The act of sitting up after lying horizontal for hours produces a slight dizziness. Not unpleasant, just the body reorienting, remembering which way is up, remembering its own weight. You sit on the edge of the bunk for a moment, letting the dizziness pass, looking at the window. Then you pour the tea, the sound of tea being poured from a pot in a small, warm compartment with mountains outside the window in the early morning. This is a sound you will not easily forget. The soft, liquid sound of it, the steam rising, the color blooming in the cup. You drink. Outside, the train is in a broad mountain valley now, the widest valley of the whole journey, the one where the two great ranges that you have been threading through finally open out into a proper lowland. The mountains are still present, ranged along both horizons, the high peaks still snow-covered, still immense, but they are farther away now, and between them the valley floor is wide and green, with fields of pale autumn grass and dark patches of forest, and the glint of the morning sun on a wide, slow-moving river. The sky is blue, not the deep, midnight blue of the mountain night, the pale, clear, particular blue of a mountain morning after a cold night, a blue that feels washed, a blue that feels like the sky's own version of a clean start. You hold the tea in both hands and look at the mountains on the horizon. They are beautiful in the morning light. Everything about them is beautiful. The train rocks gently in the wide valley. Clack, clack, hash, hash. Part 33. The last mountains. The train is leaving the mountains. You can feel it, not dramatically, but in the way the landscape changes, the way the ranges on either side begin to diminish in height, the passes lowering, the peaks becoming less extreme, the valley widening further, until what was a mountain valley is becoming something more like a plain, with mountains visible in the distance. The train speeds up slightly. In the lower terrain, The track is less constrained, the grades gentler, the curves less sharp. The rhythm of the wheels changes subtly, the intervals between the track joints slightly longer, the carriage's motion slightly faster. You look back through the rear window of the corridor as you make your way to the washroom to prepare for arrival. You can see the mountains behind you, receding now, moving into the distance. The way all things move into the distance when you pass them, becoming smaller and more blue-hazed and more purely themselves, stripped of the detail that proximity provides. From this distance, they are simply mountains, not the specific peaks you could name from the high pass last night, not the particular rock faces you watched from the window on the ledge, just the general fact of mountains, enormous and blue and cold and permanent, standing at the edge of the day you are moving into. You stood in them last night. You breathed their air, crossed their passes, passed through their tunnels. For one night, you were in the mountains entirely, surrounded by them, carried through them, sleeping among them. And now they are behind you, growing smaller, a gift given and, as all gifts are, not permanent, returning to the distance they normally occupy in a life lived on the plains. But they will be in you for a while. The memory of the stars from the high pass, the silence of the sleeping carriage, the rhythm of the wheels in the long dark tunnel. These things last. Part 34. Arrival. The station is a larger one. The city, or near it, the end of the line for this mountain service. The place where the slow mountain train connects to the faster trains of the lowland network. The place where other kinds of travel and other kinds of living begin. The platform is busy by comparison to the small mountain stations of last night. Not crowded, but active. People moving with the purposeful pace of morning travelers. The coffee stand open, a news kiosk lit up and stocked. You step off the train. The platform is solid and still under your feet. After the long night of motion, it takes a moment for your body to recognize the stillness. There is a half second where you expect the swaying that is not there, where the absence of the rhythm feels like a slight wrongness. Then your body adjusts. You stand on the solid platform in the cool morning air and look up at the sky, blue and clear and enormous. In the distance, above the city rooftops, the very tips of the mountains you came from are visible. A faint blue line on the horizon. The high peaks still snow-lit, even in the early morning. The peaks you passed through last night, now reduced to their horizon selves, their profile as familiar and as foreign as a face seen in a dream. You take a breath. The morning air is cool and clean, different from the mountain air. Lower, richer, slightly warmer, carrying the smells of the city. Coffee, exhaust, wet stone, bread baking somewhere not far away. You are here. You arrived. The journey is complete. Hash, epilogue. What the train left in you. Journeys leave things, not objects, or not only objects, something else, a quality of experience that settles into you after the fact, that you carry in a way you did not carry it before. The mountains you crossed last night are now inside you in some way that they were not before. Not as information, not as memory exactly, but as a changed calibration, the rhythm of the train. You will hear it again, not literally, but in the body's memory, in the particular relaxation that overtakes you when you next lie down in a moving vehicle, when you next feel that specific rocking. The body does not forget what it has found restful. It makes a record. It recognizes the rhythm the next time. The high pass at night, the stars from the sleeping compartment window, the reflected stars in the lake, the lights of the valley towns scattered across the dark valley floor like a second sky. The conductor passing quietly through the sleeping carriage in the middle of the night. The children sleeping in their seats with the total surrender of the genuinely exhausted. The rhythm, always the rhythm. Clack, clack, ah. But you haven't arrived yet. You are still on the train, still in the sleeping compartment, still in the bunk, still in the warm dark. The mountains are still outside the window. The rhythm is still beneath you. The night is still long. There is no station yet. There is no morning yet. There is only this, the train, the mountains, the dark, the warmth, the rhythm. Let your body be heavy. Let your breathing be slow. Let the rhythm of the wheels be the rhythm of your breathing. In, clack, clack, out, clack, clack, in. The mountains going past in the dark, the stars, the warm blanket, the pillow under your cheek. You are being carried. You don't need to steer. You don't need to watch. You only need to breathe and rest and let the train take you through the mountains, slowly, steadily, safely, all the way through the night. Good night. Asterisk.